As you can see, we are going to plant two cities. One went for the two-hammer hill with the rice, so we have a good number of jobs for our capital, and also have the two-hammer hill that will enable us to build the two-turn worker after we chop the first one without saving population. And the other city is planted into the floodplains, which is very useful because we can work cottages there without having problems with our food. Yeah, obviously we're using culture bug in the cap. I'm chopping right away now, and as you can see, I work the rice and the two-hammer forest. This is important because we will need the food in 2 turns to grow to pop 3 and pop 4 within 1 turn. Yeah. The city has 2 workers. The cap has 2 workers now that both go to the rice and work a farm there, because we will grow our cap to pop 4 to slave the settler. And at the same point we are working production now to get another 2-turn worker. Okay. In our second city we can slave the first worker now. That will go into a forest to chop right away afterwards. Okay, the 2 workers on the rice at the cap are now going to work a farm on the floodplains at the top right, so we have 2 food to work in the next turn, and can grow our cap fast enough, and obviously the farm also irrigates the rice, so it gives another food. This worker now works the road because basically it doesn't have anything else to do, and we will need the road to quickly reach our spot for the third city to the right. And the cap is working barracks during growing, so we have them already. In the second city we are working wealth after the first worker because we have to store the overflow, so when we chop now we are able to get a worker within 1 turn. We should be able to see it now. And we just got our religions, but we aren't revolting right away, but in the next turn, because this turn we get the worker in the other city, and next turn there's basically nothing happening. Those 3 workers now went into forest to simultaneously chop for the cap, which is the way you get settlers in Renaissance in general, and specifically if you are not imperialistic, it's very important to time them well. Our cap is population 4 now, and we're doing the revolt this turn, and the second city starts building a monastery, and we are working food obviously now so it can grow. And yeah, this turn there's nothing happening, so it's the perfect time to revolt. And we are taking the religion of the second city because the cap has a lot of production and can already do musketeers as soon as the settler is finished. So we would be wasting production there with building cheaper building projects, and the other city is slower, so it fits. As you already saw, we moved the worker into the forest, the second city, so we can chop there now because we need to speed up the monastery and the missionaries in the second city, so we get them fast enough because this cap will quickly get more muskets, and we are only allowed to build 2 without double promotion. As you can see, we slaved the settler now in the cap, and the slave with 2 pop generated a lot of overflow. This is very good because we are going to get a 1-turn musket right now, and the settler can move directly to our new spot. Yeah, the spot at the right is pretty obvious because we have 2 food and tons of chops. There's nothing else to do. You could basically consider planting one below the spot we are going to plant now. It would be the same amount of chops, but it's more difficult to reach. So this way we can now immediately move our workers into the wheat and start building a farm there, and obviously use culture bug and start building barracks. Yeah, this worker built a road next to the city while moving to the floodplain above the city to farm it. We are not farming the floodplain that the cap can use because there we grow a cottage. Yeah, the cap already worked the next musket and is now 2-pop slaving it again. All those 2-pop slaves, especially in the cap, are very, very important because this way you can slave efficiently and build more than a musket every 2 turns. In the cap, you need to have less than 12 hammers in your building project to be able to 2-pop slave it. So we have to micro a lot in the cap to make sure that we can 2-pop slave there. Yeah, we built the mine now, so we can micro this, and I'm often going to switch between the floodplain and the other cottages and the mine and everything in the cap to micro the slaves. As you can see now, I'm switching to the mine, so we get the musket in 1 turn, and the next turn we switch back again, so we can get a few hammers and then 2-pop slave. And now we're building the cottage here. It's very important that you grow some cottages for your cap, because it will make the GNP issue a lot easier in the end. Yeah, at the moment it's pretty obvious. We're starting to chop in the cap now. Chopping slowly and constantly is very important here, because if you put in all the chops at the same time within like 3 or 4 turns, you can't slave during those turns, so your grow is inefficient. Because as soon as you reach pop 4, 5, no, pop 5, 6 more, but depends on the city, but the higher your pop, obviously you grow slower, so it's inefficient. Yeah, not happening too much. Can 2-pop slave again in the cap, also in the second city, and the third city should be starting to get ready to do something now too. Yeah, this worker now are going to build cottages over there, and basically don't have anything else to do for the rest of the game. And because, well, we need a lot of cottages in the end. Here we have to do a lot of chopping. That's going to start right now. And the chop timing in that third city is very, very important for the optimal result, because it's not so much about just chopping the forests, but also very important when you chop them in relation to when you slave. Because on the one hand, you don't want to generate so much hammers in 1 turn that you convert hammers into money, because it doesn't help you anything with your muskets. And on the other hand, you also don't want to chop too much at the same time. Have to be very careful there. You will see later on that I'm delaying chops and just letting workers idle in the forest, because there's nothing you can do. And I will move the third worker that's building a road next to the cap right now over there too, because we need all those 3 workers at that city to chop fast enough and also build the cottages and have enough flexibility and everything. While at the other cities we basically only have to build some cottages now, because there's nothing else to do anymore. With the second city, that's actually very bad, because we can't micro any hammers there, and we don't have any chops, so there's very little influence we can take on the slave cycle, and have to live with it as it comes, which will result in quite some 1-pop slave and a 3-pop slave and quite some inefficiency, but there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, talking about slave cycles, this is the whole key point of the challenge, that you try to slave as much pop as possible at the same time, and slave as little as possible in general, because you need to be faster than a musket every 2 turns, which would be your standard slaving cycle, just always produce and then slave. But you have to produce little and then slave, and you get overflow. That is the next musket that is in 1 turn, and then you chop, you get another musket in 1 turn, and then again you start slaving. It will be very good to see at the third city.